relationships were a performance. Make it all look good on the outside. That's all that mattered. I was just doing everything I was expected to be and ignoring all of the parts of me inside that were like screaming to be let out and be seen.
If I have the negative self-talk, unfortunately, that negative self-talk is going to force me to seek affirmation for that message. And I did. I sought it out in relationships.
My attachment to you is not based off of anything that it gives me in terms of solving a hole. I am whole on my own.
Yeah.
But when I am in this relationship or engaged with this person, it's additive. It's additive for me, and I feel it's additive for them.
I am not alone in my head anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really the thing. That's really the thing for me.
This is where life meets life. Reality meets reality. And if we can show up for each other in that way, then this is the safety you're talking about. This is this is where I can be me, flaws, strengths, and all, and you can be you, and we can travel along together and share those moments and share those pieces of life. If I'm going to condense the heart that is in love, that's what it comes down to, is a continuous exchange of understanding and vulnerability. Welcome to No Alcohol Needed, the podcast. You're hanging out at the intersection of emotional wellness, personal growth, and living an alcohol-free life. Here we share everything we've learned and continue to learn about how to be happy, no alcohol needed.
Hello and welcome everybody to No Alcohol Needed. It is so nice to see you today and be hanging out. We've got Mike and Christen here, and they're joining us on this Valentine's Day episode where we are going to talk about love and relationships and all of that good stuff. And so I do want to remind you before we jump into this conversation, you can learn more about Mike and Christen if you go to our website, noalcoholneeded.net, click on Meet the Voices of No Alcohol Needed. And as long as they actually send me their bios before this episode comes out,
Let's try not to laugh.
you will be able to learn more about them. So for sure, go check it out. We've got 8 amazing people joining us this season, and you can check all of them out, get to know them. If you've been watching for the last month, you've already met them all. So make sure you check that out. Visit the website. There's some cool new stuff going on the website anyway. So for sure, go have a look. And yeah, as you guys are listening, if you're on YouTube and you're watching, we have a comment section, and we love the comment section. We would love for you to use it. We're talking about love and relationships and all of the stuff that comes up. And the most special thing about this podcast is that people are here sharing their real life stories, which lets everybody else know that they're not alone in their messy and their imperfect and their struggles and all of that. And if you have stories that you would love to share in the comments, I love the idea of people sharing what they've been through too, so that people can come and look through the comments and realize that nobody's alone. Nobody's story is so completely unique that they can't relate to someone else and feel a little bit less alone. So please use the comment section. Let's talk about the stuff that comes up in this episode, and let's create a little bit of community there. So anyway, on that note, Mike and Christen, thank you so much for being here with us today. It's great to see you and hang out with you. So we know that there is no denying that love and relationships can be really hard. They are wonderful, don't get me wrong, but they can also cause a lot of frustration and a lot of heartache. And from a sobriety and recovery standpoint, I often say that learning to be in a healthy relationship is kind of like level 2 of recovery. Like first you learn how to be with yourself. Then you figure out how to be with other people, because it is complicated and it's messy and emotions can be really hard. So with Valentine's Day coming up at the end of the week, we thought it would be a good time to share some of the things that we've learned, maybe give you some things to chat with your partner about this weekend, and see what kind of thoughts we can spark for you guys, and maybe share some wisdom along the way. So we'll dig into this first by just starting with like before sobriety, before you did some emotional growth, before you did some work on yourselves, what was the hardest part of relationships for you? And the other part of that, if you want to run with it, is like, what are some of those patterns that you just kept repeating over and over again that made relationships more complicated than they needed to be? So let's talk about that first.
The floor is
go, Mike?
yours.
I would say maybe testing the boundaries of plausibility for lies was probably one of the things which I struggled. I'm laughing about it, but it's very true. Quite frankly, I think if anybody has been in a relationship, and if anybody listening hasn't heard me on the show before, just real quickly, I was in active addiction for roughly 14 years, most of which overlapped with my previous marriage. I'm now divorced and remarried. So, there's a lot for me. The overlap is, it's almost completely congruent. I'm glad that there are some areas that differ, that I was single for a little while, in recovery, really recovering everything. And also, not in the same level of addiction at all for many years with my ex-wife, because it does give some data points that I can kind of compare and everything. Um, but in terms of biggest struggles, honestly, it's really hard for me to identify something other than the transparency factor, because that is just so foundational to the relationship that I'm in now, that I so appreciate and love. And that's true of really my non-romantic relationships as well. It's something that's just important to me. That it's also kind of my nature. So active addiction had me fighting an internal, and in the latter stages, external conflict around trying to reconcile how much was I really about it? Like, how, you know what I mean? How much, how real was I? And
How to be honest.
I mean,
How to be honest.
that the thing is, again, like, that sort of comes naturally to me, even in addiction, except in the ways that I needed to protect my addiction.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And there are, when you are, dependent, as I was, and out of state, and all the, the chaos that comes in different shades of addiction. When you're trying to manage that, uh, it does bleed into the relationship in so many different ways, that it comes into very, very basic forms, like your availability, to do routine things. Um, I'm sure there are going to be plenty of opportunities for examples to come up of my own lying in that relationship, which I guess I'll park for now. But I'll just say that, yeah, that was a complete impediment for me. I'm not someone who can have a relationship that's based on really anything less than pretty much as much authenticity as I and that person I'm capable of. And that played out.
Right.
Played out in my first marriage.
Yeah. No, I feel that, like, I mean, we talk about like the honesty piece, and there's the lying part where we were trying to get away with the things we were doing and not let anybody find out about that, right? But like when I was making notes for this particular question when we were getting ready to record, one of the things that I wrote down was relationships were a performance.
Mm,
Make it all look good on the outside. That's all that mattered. Make sure that like everything was a perform. I literally felt like I was an actor in my own life, and that was true in all aspects of my life, not just my relationship, but it definitely played into that too. It was all just putting on a show so that everything looked good outside. Whatever was happening inside, like I just shoved that down and tried to ignore it so that I could be the best version of an actress that I could be. So I feel like those kind of go along the same lines, Mike. I don't know if that sounds accurate, but like there was nothing authentic about the way I was showing up in my relationship. I was just doing everything I was expected to be and ignoring all of the parts of me inside that were like screaming to be let out and be seen, because I was afraid those were the things that would make me unlovable. Right.
mm. Yeah, I did that very tangibly with some things. I mean, I'm making jokes about, my hiding, my addiction, but the the lack of transparency goes beyond that. Like I have had childhood trauma that I didn't, share with anyone in the world
Hmm.
until after, I was divorced or until the wheels were in motion of my divorce. So my ex-wife never had the opportunity to even know me know something really critical and formative about me in that way. Um,
Right.
can I ask you a question, Julie?
Yeah.
And well, I just did, but you are obviously, I know you're capable of saying whether or not you'd prefer to answer, but did that performative pressure? Yes, like when you are speaking a language that I very much identify with, and I'm
Right.
curious, did you feel that was the motivation for that? Did that come intrinsically? Did it come from outside sources, a combination? I know.
Ooh. No, that's a really good question. Like I could probably spend the next hour answering that question, so I'll try to like bring it all in really quick. But like I grew up in a life that already made me a perfectionist. So my whole existence starting when I was little was be everything everybody wants you to be and then you will be loved, and if you do anything that's less than perfect, don't let anybody find out, right? That was my level of dishonesty, was if it's less than perfect, if you made a mistake, if you screwed up, make sure nobody finds out, and then you better freaking do better the next time, right? So that was how I grew up, and then came into my marriage with that same mentality. And then I mean, married into a relationship that perpetuated that same kind of existence and belief. And part of that was totally my doing. Like, if I knew then what I know now, I would have been like, no, I'm not going to pretend to be everything that I'm supposed to be. But I mean, we know what we know, right? And until we learn better. So yeah, I don't know if that really answers that question, but I think it's a childhood thing that you carry with you. And I think that speaking of relationships and all of that, we go to what is familiar and comfortable. And for me, familiar and comfortable was make it look really freaking good on the outside. And so that's been my whole existence. And been a perpetuating cycle ever since.
Well, that's often how we attract people too, right?
Right.
By
Mhm.
making it look
These
as
are
best as possible on the outside. So
Definitely. Yeah.
these are my exact notes. Like I don't know if I have anything else to say, but I always have something to say.
yeah, yeah,
So the
yeah, you know.
yes, yes. Sometimes hours go by when Mike and I are on the phone. So what the first thing that I thought of when you said the topic was love and relationships before and after sort of sobriety, emotional sobriety, whatever, is like for me, emotional sobriety and sobriety, they happen to like coincide for me, were the marked point in my life where I was like, I'm going to break my childhood patterns. Like
Mhm.
that was the point where I was like clear headed enough to recognize what the patterns were and make a conscious decision to put in the work to break those patterns. And my patterns were very similar to yours, Julie, and probably yours, Mike. I grew up in a family where there was all of this, like, disruption. My mother was very sick. I think I mentioned that in the last podcast. There was other family stuff going on, and we still had to pretend like everything was okay. So that's like one piece of it. And the other piece of it was like the deeply ingrained responsibility to hold in my emotions, because my emotions might be damaging to other people, they might be hard for other people, and I think that like women talk about this more than men, but the more I talk to people working in like the mental health field, the more I talk to people, just friends, and having deep spiritual conversations, this is not like a male, female, she, he, them, they issue. This is a everyone issue.
Mhm.
And like nothing against sort of our parents. I think we're kind of all in the same generation here, but they didn't have what we have as far as like you can be open about your feelings. There's therapy. This is okay. And the generation that are my children, who are all in their 20s, have this sort of like, my 25-year-old will talk about the breakdown of her ego at age 18. And I talk about the same thing happening to me when I was 40.
40.
And my dad is talking about that happening to him right now at 70. So like there's a generational thing, right? Where we're all just growing at the same time. And I think it's so cool that like generationally we're all growing as a group, right? I can talk to all three of you guys and we can all, well, Steve hasn't talked yet because we haven't let him, but we will, Steve. I bet we all have very similar, when I talk to people from like 35 to 55, it's all this very same like midlife crisis, but I call it like a midlife evolution where we're like, ooh, these are my patterns. I need to deal with them because I want a happy life, because I want to have happy relationships. And interestingly enough, so many of us have that same, like, I had to be perfect or other people were going to get hurt.
Mhm.
Which feeds right into, for me, like my recovery, right? When I first got into recovery, I got a job. I was working on my CAC, my clinical supervisor, who's still one of my dearest friends. Like I would say things like, well, if I tell this person how I feel, and he would just look me dead in the eye. And he's like not much older than I am, maybe 10, 15 years. And he'd be like, you are not that powerful. You're just not that powerful. Like your feelings aren't that powerful. You're just scared to say them.
Mhm.
Like, and if your feelings aren't acceptable for that other person, they're a human. They can walk away from those.
Exactly.
And that was really my pattern, very similar to Julie and Mike a little bit, was like, I was afraid to say how I really felt. I was really afraid to say how I really felt. Because I didn't know if it was okay or allowed culturally, societal, whatever. My mom was like dying of cancer and still had after school snacks on a tray ready for me and all my friends. When everybody was coming over, nobody seemed to have to acknowledge that she was sick, including us to an extent, right? We never got a chance to deal with those feelings going in and out of hospitals. And that completely carried through into my relationships. And after I made a decision to do the work, and I'm like very, very big on the group process in therapy, because I think that peer support, I think these conversations that we're having are so important because we remind each other of things in our own lives, right? Like I say something, everybody shakes their head yes, because I'm reminding you of something in your own
There's
life.
so much like
Yeah.
silent affirmation that
Yeah.
happens when you're
So
sharing
much.
a little bit of your story and a little bit of the relatedness and that sort of thing. I'm gonna hop in here 1 second. Is literally the reason why this podcast was birthed was because of the value that we had in both of our lives, in both of our recoveries, because of being in small little group conversations and having that little instant validation and that little instant affirmation, which allowed you to like dig a little bit deeper and go a little bit more below the surface, because it was still safe, because you got the head nod and you got the me too and you got all of this other wonderful, beautiful stuff that if you don't say and if you don't share with someone, you never actually get.
Right.
And I'm just going to jump in on top of that and say, for anybody who's listening, if you've never experienced that, y'all, we have a Monday night weekly get together where that's exactly what we do. We like
Correct.
provide a safe space for people to show up and talk about whatever is real in their life. It's strangers, you don't know them. It's totally safe and you can finally not be alone. So keep that in mind. Also found on our website. Okay.
Go ahead,
Anyway.
Kristen.
About that. Thank you.
Yeah, no,
Um,
you can find us every Monday night at 8:30 p.m. Eastern.
Awesome.
You know where we'll
The
be on
other
Zoom.
The other thing that, and this ties into the first thing is, and this also comes from those first few years of taking those classes, learning how to do individual sessions with people, myself being involved with group sessions, leading group sessions, all of the things that I did my first few years of doing the work. Rupture and repair makes relationships really safe. Like there is not, I was so, and that is one of the patterns. I was so afraid of rupture. Like it felt like it was going to be so final. It felt like it was, if I have a fight, we're at the end of it. And it took saying how I feel, having someone say, I don't feel the same way, maybe having it get heated, maybe not. I haven't actually been in that many heated arguments in the last 5 or 6 years, but learning how to make that repair. Each time there's a rupture and repair, each time there's a disagreement and a reconciliation, there's safety built in the relationship. And then I have more ability to bring to show up in a very, very authentic way, to echo Julie and Mike. I have safety in that, right? And we need safety. Safety and security are like in the, what's it called? Somebody fill in the pyramid, the hierarchy. Thank you.
That's like
it's just the dementia kicking in. It's fine. It's a basic human need. That's what I'm trying to say. And so, I think my pre-emotional growth, my pre-emotional sobriety, my pre-sobriety patterns were not showing up as myself. And when you don't show up as yourself, and this was all written in my notes, I swear, Julie, but you have that constant little voice in your head saying, well, if Julie really knew me, she knew all of me, she wouldn't like me. And that's really sad and really scary and very spirally for me in my head. It's very just like, or like if he really knew sort of how much debt I had, or that I am interested in an open relationship, or that I have postpartum depression and like can't handle having my baby for days at a time. If he really knew that, he would never stay married to me.
Right.
And so then you're stuck yourself. And this is such a bad place to be stuck. And that was my pattern. I think very similarly to both of what you guys said. And I the more authentic I get with people in both romantic relationships and in friendships and in work relationships, although there have to be boundaries there, the more I can confidently say, we're all so messed up. Like, and it's fine. And it's fine.
Yeah.
That's what
That is the human experience right there.
Right.
Like, we're here to figure it out. And that's all. And it's, but if it's all in my head, I give myself no grace. I feel like I'm alone. I feel like I'm completely messed up, and I feel like they would never love me if I knew the truth. And that led me personally to a series of, in different ways, abusive relationships.
Right.
Because I thought I was worthless. And a pattern of maybe recognizing toxicity, but thinking it was all me, or thinking that was the best I could do, and then you're in this situation where you're with someone who is also telling you you'll never find anyone as good as me, or or I was, right? And then you're like, okay, well, this is just my life.
We find people who like reiterate whatever message it is that we're sending to ourselves. And it's like in my personal situation, my message that I was sending to myself was, I'm never good enough. And not even intentionally, he kind of gave me that same message, and he never did that on purpose. That was me taking his behaviors and then and using them very much to make myself feel like I wasn't good enough. And it was just what it was. And so I think that we also need to recognize, like, that's generally whatever message we tell ourselves, we're going to find somebody who just reiterates that message for us and makes it sink even deeper.
When we're unwell, like when we're not.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
It goes both ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? It
That's
goes
exactly
both
what I was
ways.
thinking
If I
about,
have
Steve.
the negative self-talk, unfortunately, that negative self-talk is going to force me to seek affirmation for that message.
Right.
So I'm going to seek that out. And I did. I sought it out in relationships. The not good enough existed in previous relationships. It just did. And then that led to for me to be very agreeable and also accepting blame. So if I would agree and accept the blame, and then I would, that's how I would diffuse conflict. Because then this way I would never have to face it. Okay, fine, it's my fault, whatever. Even though it wasn't my fault. Like, I had nothing to do with it, but I would just take the blame. And then this way, there would never be a rupture. Christen, like, you brought that up, and I was like, yes, that right there is why I was so agreeable. I never had to there was never a fight, and never an argument. I had a nasty, anxious attachment style, so that's how I would repeat it, would be agreeing to things, apologizing for stuff I wasn't responsible for, taking responsibility for stuff that I didn't need to take responsibility for, on top of the lies, because I still had to maintain the lifestyle that ended up being the discomfort, or the fake comfort for the misery that I was creating when I was agreeing. Like, you can just see how it piles on and piles on and piles on.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my cycle. Say yes to enough stuff to shut down and feel small and worthless. Wish someone would see me and treat me the way I wished I could be treated. In the meantime, not treating myself with any of that respect, because I didn't know that if I had to be the one that gave myself the respect before I could even try and demand it from anyone else.
Right.
Even though we all deserve respect, if I'm not giving it to me, how can I expect someone to give that to me too? Especially in a close relationship.
Yeah.
And those are always the hardest. They're the hardest to be vulnerable in. Like, when there's no vulnerability, the relationship was just transactional.
Yeah.
I trade you this thing
Mhm.
for this task. I trade you this task for this task. So I'll take out the garbage and mow the lawn, and you cook the dinner, and I do the dishes, and then you do the laundry. Like, it is just literally like a cohabitation.
Yeah.
And then a distribution of responsibility without really any emotional attachment to each other than this is just the way we're supposed to feel. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, you're more attached to the things that you do than the person you're sharing them with or doing them for, or however you want to like disseminate that.
Mhm.
But that was where I fell in. I fell into the people pleaser. I fell into the Mr. Nice Guy. And I'll say this over and over again. One of the phrases that I would say would be like, nice guys finish last. And like, I felt that to my core. Show up, keep showing up, no boundaries, no nothing. And I thought and felt that the more I gave, eventually I would get it in return.
Yeah.
Like, that amount of give didn't work that way. It doesn't work that way at all. Anyways, that was my like before habits, before all of the and Christen, you called it like that, the midlife crisis and that sort of thing. Brene Brown calls it the
Evolution.
midlife unraveling.
Mhm.
And it's
Okay.
I
literally
like
That's
evolution.
what it is.
right, like evolution, unraveling, like it's a combination of both, because you unravel before you evolve, I think.
Yeah.
Viktor Frankl refers to, like, I can't remember exactly the words he uses, but he says essentially like the midlife crisis should be seen as one of man's greatest achievements, because it's when you finally
Awesome.
reach the point where you're like, okay, now I have to undo it all now.
Yeah.
And it's not, we all look at it like it's this terrible thing. And in reality, it's like, it is the rebirth of us as humans into something that actually feels good. So I liked that way of looking at it. I just finished reading his book a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, man's greatest achievement is the midlife crisis. I love this.
It's
I love
'cause
that.
So
I
That's
definitely
in
identify
Man's
that.
Search for Meaning.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
so.
such a good book.
Mhm.
Oh,
Definitely. So let's take this a little bit and move into kind of what does your relationship, or what is your definition of love look like now that you've done some work, now that you've had your midlife crisis or unraveling or awakening or whatever? How do you define love? What does that mean to you now?
I will have more thoughts, I'm sure, after when you guys speak, just like right now, because I spoke first.
Yeah,
Such-
go for it.
Um,
it's go.
a lot of what, especially what Steve was describing in terms of relationship dynamics, those are patterns that we see evinced in abusive relationships, that elements that kind of defy logic the way addiction does. Like, why does this person do this behavior when we know that? Well, what does that come back to? It comes back to the hierarchy that Christen's talking about. Because the known's always going to feel more safety, more security than the unknown. So it leaves us in a position where, like, again, as Steve described so well from his personal experience, he was willing to compromise X, Y, and Z to maintain just some kind of stability and consistency. And when both people in a relationship are fucked up, and we kind of established that we're all fucked up, but really, I mean, when both people in the relationship are midlife unraveling,
When
you
they're
know,
fucked up, but they don't know it yet. That's the difference.
That's it right there.
then they just keep feeding. Both people are feeding each other. You know, I am like to you, like to use your example, Julie, the part to which I really relate, like the performative aspect. I continue to exhibit these behaviors and do these things and make sure my life is centered around achieving at a high level and is seen by people, because not only now, something that was baked into me as a child, you know, now I have someone else that's part of their identity. That's part of their safety and security, is being seen as someone who has achieved, you know,
Right.
whatever that is, whether that's like being an NFL coach, or, you know, being maybe like a doctor or something, whatever it is for them, they and their requisite level of, you know, however they appraise that success, it's on them now too. So like both people are really now we're in two people contributing to the cycle, and that's when the feedback loops occur.
Yes.
Um, I realize I didn't answer your question directly at all in terms of what
What is
love
love to
means.
you
Yeah, in terms of
now?
what love is to me now. I am a huge, as I think as all three of you guys know, and I've said on this podcast many times, I'm like, connection is the opposite of addiction. Very much part of my ethos, and was one of the first real North Stars in terms of like formulating my own philosophy through recovery in life. Because of where I meet people in different phases of addiction, whether they are the person in addiction, or they are the spouse, the parent, the child, like whatever, this is something that I'm just inundated with exposure to, is that I don't believe you can truly be connected while in active addiction. So similarly to like what I've said before, as far as like the term functional addict and why I despise that term so much, how I feel it undermined me personally, how I self-sabotaged, you know, with that term. Similarly, I think that you cannot be truly connected when you are in active addiction. And again, obviously that doesn't mean just dependent on substances. It means addictive behaviors, you know, when you're in like emotional addiction as well. So what love means to me now, and honestly, it's not that much of a difference for me between like romantic love and otherwise. It is connection.
Yeah.
It's you know, my not just my attachment to you. My attachment to you is not based off of anything that it gives me in terms of solving a hole. Okay. I am whole on my own.
Yeah.
But when I am in this relationship or engaged with this person, you know, again, romantically, really, or otherwise, it's additive. It's additive for me, and I feel it's additive for them. So yeah, for me, it's having those connection points and just real vulnerability is not something we are like, I would say hardwired, for. So to be able to realize that and live that feels pretty special. And I think it's something that sticks out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I actually wrote down, I think, almost exactly the same thing that you just ended there with, Mike, that love is not something that completes you. Like, the goal is that you are already whole and understand what that means. Love is something that complements you, complements your life. It adds to it. It's allowing yourself to be seen, which is terrifying. That's the vulnerability piece. And allowing yourself to see another person and then accept one another exactly as you show up. And I think there's a piece in love, again, with romantic or otherwise, with friendships, any relationship. One of the key defining important factors there for me is, are they going the same direction I am going in? Are we both growing in the same direction? Because otherwise everything just kind of, it fizzles out. There's not a lot to relate over. And again, that's the connection piece, right? Like, I remember this moment where I was like, oh my God, like, the whole actual meaning of life is meaningful connection with other humans. And it, like, when that happened, it was just like, oh, I figured it out. Yeah, like, mind blowing, right?
So relate to that.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you can talk to other people and you say that and they're like, I don't get it. And you're like, okay, we're not going to be going the same direction, right?
Yeah.
Tell me
And
about you.
I'm a heterosexual male, and I was in a rehab, just a male rehab. And so, like, when I had that realization, it had nothing to do with romantic love or
Right.
romantic interest or anything like that at all.
No, it's not. It is literally just, we need to have meaningful, real, vulnerable, deep connections with other humans, no matter what level or version of love we're talking about. Yeah.
What do you got, Christen?
Agree.
So everything that both of you just said, I think, like, a really critical piece of me coming to a more clear definition of what love is for me was being alone for 5 years. Like, actively not dating, actively rebuilding the important relationships that I had fumbled, but also actively, there was no point from the time I was 18 until the time I got sober when I was 40 that I was not in a romantic relationship. No point. So there was, by not sexual gender specific standards, but by the nature of where I was in any given moment in that time, I did not have a bank account that was just mine without a man on it. I did not have a car without a man's name on it. I did not. So, like, and I'm kind of targeting my response specifically to romantic relationships, although I agree that that carries over into all of my relationships. And I think that's beautiful and wonderful because it all just kind of brings it together. Agree on the vulnerability, but really agree on the knowing yourself and knowing you're okay on your own. And yes, other relationships with other people are critical and maybe the most important thing in life, but cannot be attained until I know myself. And the other piece to that came to me during my midlife unraveling was, I don't want to be in a room, and I certainly don't want to be in a relationship with someone I can't both learn from and teach. Right? Like, I want to be able to learn something new from them, and I want to have something valuable to share with them, and not any transactional, like, I'll do the dishes, you take out the trash, in a real life way. Like, I want to make my experiences, I know those experiences are valuable, and I want to partner with people, platonically, romantically, family wise. I'm closer to people in my family based on these standards as well, who they feel like they can, there's a mutual value in my trauma, right? And a mutual value in their trauma, right? Because what really else do we have to learn and teach? Like, math or science, whatever. I mean, that's all awesome. But, like, really, like, I want my life experiences to be helpful, to be relatable, to be a stepping stone for other people, either to not make the same mistakes or know they're in good company when they do make the same mistakes. The other piece that was never a part of love for me that is now, and it sort of goes with my next piece because they seem like they're conflicting, but I don't think they are, but is I really like somebody that's going to hold me accountable. Like when I have those Steve, who you were before, like very passive, very people pleasing, I'm like, oh, he's not ready. He's not ready. I'm going to eat this man alive. Like he's going down. I'm going to ruin his life. And that goes the same with friendships. That goes like, I need someone who can match my energy and is who is brave enough to hold me accountable, because because I'm being brave to hold you accountable. Like it is not comfortable for me to say, you know, Mike, when you did that thing, I didn't feel good, right? Or when you did that thing, I think it was unethical to your client. Not that I've had to say that to you, but those are the things where it's like, I need accountability. I crave it. I want it because I want to grow, not because I don't trust myself and my decisions, but because I want to grow. And that's kind of, you know, what I think what you were saying, Julie, with like two people that are growing in the same direction in romantic relationships. The other thing, and it goes back to my old clinical supervisor, Raymond Scott, telling me I wasn't that powerful. And Julie used the word acceptance. Like not, I don't try to change people anymore. Like I don't try to change people. So like I might say how your actions make me feel, and I will tell you, but I'm not going to say change that. Like I more see myself these days in relationships, both platonic and romantic, as an observer. And that is, I hope this is positive for a Valentine's Day episode, but that gives me strength, right? Because it gives me the strength to walk away. If I choose, if I see somebody, like for me, I don't drink, right? If I can have a partner who has a few drinks here and there, that's not an impediment to my relationships at all. I am in a relationship with a normie right now. He's wonderful. I'm head over heels in love with him. But if I watched somebody drink daily or alcoholically, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't try to save them. Like I'm tired. I'm 47 years old. I'm not here to save you. If you want to grow with me, right? And my dad's like, you're tired, whatever. And I'm like, I'm tired. I really am. I'm exhausted. It's been exhausting last 7 years. But like, I don't try to change people. I'm not going to try to change you. I will do the whole, if it's no skin off my back, I will do the things. I want our things to fit together. You know what I mean? Like I love cooking. I cook dinner every night. My boyfriend was sick last week. He was sick all week with the flu, just like down and out. And I was like making homemade broths and homemade teas and bringing Theraflu. And he's like laying on a bed on the floor, and I'm like bringing him, and I loved it. Like I love that. Everybody's not a caretaker, right? And that's okay. But for me, that was the piece I could pick up, right? And it was the perfect thing. And he noticed it. And when he was done, he was like, I don't, like, you're so wonderful. I don't know why. He's like, you didn't even act like it was a big deal. And I'm like, it wasn't a big deal. Like I loved being able to do those things for you.
Right. Additive.
You said,
Right.
I want our pieces to fit together if it's no skin off your back. What that means is like, I want our pieces to fit together as long as I'm not abandoning myself in order to fit your pieces to mine. Right.
Yeah.
And I want to be with someone whose suggestions or like ways that they hold me accountable are, their intentions are also for my growth, and my intentions are also for their growth, right? Not like there's a selfishness that can really come out in that I have to be very aware of, right?
Complementary.
Like, like I could say, I wish you would just, you know, not work all day and ride along in the car with me and feed me when I'm in between appointments. Like that's selfish. That's selfish accountability, and that's extreme. But no, where the accountability, there's a mutual independence and also a mutual desire to grow. And I think that unraveling, like you were saying earlier, Julie, it's so critical for me to be in a relationship with someone who has already been through that. And that's just right now in my life. And like I said before we started the podcast, hey baby, he's like,
I was wondering if it picked up. I'm sorry.
okay.
Camille says hello.
So, like I was saying before we had the podcast, I think that unraveling is happening at a younger and younger age. I think our younger generations are amazing. I mean, of course, I have 5 people in a younger generation that are my children, but I think it's so cool that they are learning this stuff about vulnerability, that they are learning to ask questions, that they are learning that they can say their feelings, that they are learning to hold other people accountable at a much younger age. And there was one other thing that I was going to say, and I forgot it, so I won't say it right now. But, there's so much to it. And I think that like love is just being so brave. Like it is about being brave. It is about, and it's about being able to walk away. Like it really is for me. It's not that sort of, for me, and I know this is different from a lot of people, till death do us part thing. It's like, it's more like as long as we're growing together, as long as this is working, as long as we are making each other better and we are making the world better by being together. Like, and that doesn't mean we never fight or there's not hard times or whatever, but it's totally different for me now. And I needed that 5 years of finding myself to be secure enough to be able to be brave, to be secure enough to tell somebody my feelings and know that if they weren't okay with them, that they may walk away. And to know that I would be okay. And you can't go through that midlife unravel. I mean, you can go through it while you're partnered with someone else, but that is a very internal, to me, that midlife unraveling is akin to like birth and death. Like you you're on your own. This is uncharted territory. This is the inner world.
Yeah.
This isn't no one. I mean, people can handhold and they can support you and they can be the doctor that delivers the baby and they can be the hospice nurse, but this is on you. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I know the other thing I was going to say, and I'll say it really quick because it is kind of funny. When I did start dating again, I was so specific. I was so just like, I need to know that you have a therapist. I need to see a pay stub, not because I necessarily care how much money you make, but because I need to know that you have a steady job and you're keeping it. Like it started to be this like paperwork situation. Like I need your last STD test. I need a therapy receipt. I need to talk to your boss. Like, and those things, like it's so weird in romantic relationships.
Kristen's relationship interview.
Okay, submit these things, and then I'll let you know if we can have a coffee. But like, but like the older you get, the more you're like, and I just want to keep it real for people. Like it isn't; those are indicators for me, and there may be different indicators for other people, but like for me, those are indicators that someone is doing the thing, that they're like trying to be an adult, and you just have to be trying. And my current partner, like the night he told me he had 2 therapists, one mean one and one nice one, I was like, what? I'm in. Like it wasn't like the fancy dinners or the sex or anything else. It was like, you have 2 therapists, give me their names and numbers. I just want to make sure. Sign a release of information. I'm in on this.
I just got an ROI.
Yeah.
Boyfriend.
Amazing.
Not really. I didn't get an ROI, but I did think about it. And I do know where they are.
I know you're being facetious, but I think it's awesome.
Okay, so Steve, how do you define love?
I mean, you guys said a lot of things that were very like near and dear to my heart too. What I wrote down, because sometimes what I do is I'll simplify something and then expand on it. But what I wrote down was a continuous exchange of understanding and vulnerability.
That's so like simple and perfect. Yeah, that's exactly it.
So
right?
good.
And that's what I think it is in the end. Like I know it's a stupid simple way to put it, but uh I'm emotionally involved, I'm physically involved, I'm sharing my life in a way that's authentic to me, and my expectation from you is that you do the same. And then we find where we intertwine, we find where I really appreciate like your skills and your talents, and they complement mine. Like they don't have to be the same, but when my weakness is your strength and vice versa, we make a pretty unbelievable team. But when our strengths are both the same, we can't lean on each other for anything. We're just going to be two bulls in a china shops in those like in those aspects. I need to be able to listen to you as much as you need to be able to listen to me without trying to fix it. And
Mhm.
in those moments when I can say the things that are hardest for me to say, and whoever it is, this doesn't even have to be and this could be in purely platonic relationships. Like it doesn't have to be romantic, but this is where our exchange happens. This is where life meets life, reality meets reality. And if we can show up for each other in that way, then this is the safety you're talking about. This is this is where I can be me, flaws, strengths and all, and you can be you, and we can travel along together and share those moments and share those pieces of life. So that's like if I'm going to condense the heart that is in love, that's what it comes down to, is a continuous exchange of understanding in vulnerability.
I love that.
Mhm.
That is such a perfect. So, okay, I have to ask you, like, did you find that somewhere, or is that just literally what came out of you?
That's
You can't
literally
come up with
really
what
that
impressed.
idea,
came
Julie?
out of me.
Jeez,
No,
Julie.
I'm really impressed. That is such a beautiful. That's like you should put that on a Pinterest quote kind of
That's
phrase.
that's
I like it.
Steve original quote.
I'm gonna do that, and I
Love it.
will attribute it to you. I will make
I
you your
will.
own Pinterest pin.
I accept one of my goals. One of the notes that is on my board is do the work or spend your life quoting people who did. And I
Absolutely.
have this on my whiteboard. It's a Coyne Mascara quote. I can't take it for myself, but I would love to be quoted someday as somebody who's done the work and put something into a way that somebody else wants to repeat and share. I don't know. It's something that's cool to me. Quotes make me think, and they hit me, and I love it when I can come up with something that does the same for someone else. It's like a gift. It's like a gift of a
Definitely.
concise thought that goes to somebody else, and they go, "Huh, I never thought of it that way."
Those are like the best for sure.
Mhm.
Can I say too that like it, we are we've mentioned several times like things that translate from non-romantic or romantic to platonic relationships, and one of the things like that why Steve and I are finding Kristen, why Julie, why we get along, and especially Steve and Kristen have a longer period of knowing each other. It's exchange, like we are exchanging ideas like this. Steve and I literally via voice memo, as I know it's you guys do as well, and exchanging these ideas. That speaks that is exactly for me the way that I picture the kind of growth mindset
Mhm.
that that Kristen and Julie that you guys talked about, like um, that is part of our definition of love and our need to share that to have that kind of connection. Um, and I just think that's cool because that's so evinced even in my own relationships with you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is, and love is love, right? It doesn't matter if it's platonic or romantic or family or whatever that is. It shows up in really similar ways in all the
Yeah.
different relationships. Okay, so I'm just gonna like we're kind of like reaching a point where we're supposed to be wrapping this up. Are you guys good with sticking around for a couple more minutes while we actually talk about the last session, like little section I have here? I don't want to like run you over too far. So how has having a healthy relationship, being able to be in a healthy relationship and having those skills, how has that actually impacted your overall emotional well-being? So like at its core, this podcast is a podcast about how to be happy. No alcohol needed. So how has having a healthy relationship actually impacted your emotional wellness? What's that look like?
Do you want me to go first on this one?
Yeah, go for it.
One of the things that has impacted me the most is having a safe place to fall. When failure hits in my life, and it does, I can turn around and say, I failed. And I don't feel any less of a person than what I did before. And it was that one piece early on that gave me the courage to continue trying to grow and to not be afraid of my own shadow and to start thinking big and to start believing in myself. Because believe in myself didn't come from me at the beginning. It came from someone else seeing something in me that I couldn't see. And it took me a good long fucking while to start believing that piece. And it's in that piece that allowed me to start showing up for myself and in other relationships in a way that makes me proud.
Mm.
And that way that makes others proud. That I'm someone that they can lean on, that I'm someone that they know. And so you can invite me into your living room and I can invite you into mine. And then we can share that cup of coffee and share that emotional whatever it is. Because for me, if there's really no emotional exchange, then we're down to transactional exchanges. And that to me, that's where my well-being has improved dramatically. I have the courage to go out and do incredibly hard things and make incredibly big moves in my life because I believe in myself now.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think that's a great answer.
I love it, Steve. Sorry, I was just I'm taking notes on what you just said because I like it so much.
I
I
was
almost
thinking,
cried there. I almost cried because
Yeah.
that's like, it's that hits me in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you, Christen, you say you got sober at 40, I got sober at 39.
yeah,
And I can look back and go, how many years did I have in my life that lacked self-belief? And I'm like, it's almost sad
Mhm.
when you look back on it, but it feels fucking incredible when you can say it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So happy for you, dude. Thank you for going there. Honestly, thank you.
Go ahead,
What about you
Christen.
guys? How has healthy having healthy relationships impacted your emotional well-being?
I think what I was talking about earlier about the inner spiraling when you're not being vulnerable, like the inner, like if Julie knew this about me, she would never love me.
Mhm.
And then how much, because just like you guys were saying, we have the confirmation bias. We're seeking to have our thoughts validated. We validate our thoughts more than anyone else. So like I am not alone in my head anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's really the thing. That's really the thing for me. Like I have a thought, and sometimes I look at my partner and I'm just like, and I've gotten better at it because we've been together for 2 years and he's my first partner in sobriety. But like, I'll be like, I know this is insane. Like, I have to say it out loud. I know that it's insane. It'll be something like I'll be jealous of him, or I'll have to work out of town for 3 days and I'll be like, oh my God, he cheated on me. Whatever my head makes up when I'm sitting in a hotel room
That shit's
alone.
real.
It's so real.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll be like, hey, I know that this is crazy. I don't need you to fix it. I just need you to validate that it's insane. And I need you to hear it. I need to say it out loud. That's it. That's it.
Yep.
And the amount that changes my mental health is immeasurable. And I can say it to other people now too, because either they are going to be like, you're insane, I don't want to be your friend, or they're going to be like Mike and they're going to be like, oh my God, I thought that yesterday. You said it out loud, right? And then I'm like, those are my people. So like like we've been saying the whole night, it carries over, right? It carries over into everything. But that is really the thing. And that is so critical to mental health. And I started to say this earlier, but I really want to get it out before the end of the episode. I think that therapy is very important. I think that having a therapist is very important. However, the ability to do that to people you're not paying to keep you healthy is a very different strength. It's a very
Yes.
different superpower, because and I have gotten into this rut. You can get into this rut of, well, if I wasn't paying Julie to hear my crazy thoughts, she would obviously tell me that I'm crazy. When you start doing it in the real world, that's when the growth, right? That's when the real clarity comes.
Yeah.
Therapy is a great first step, but like, that's when that's where the real growth is. And that's where the breaking point for me was, right? Like, you can be in treatment, you can be doing the work, you can have your EMDR, and you can have all of these things, and they're wonderful. But when you can start doing that in the real world is when the real weight comes off, or when it came off for me.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think I found that too for me with I started out in kind of a support group setting. So it wasn't I mean, I have a therapist also, but I really started coming into my own vulnerably, talking about emotions, all of that in like a support group setting. And that was step one. And then it was taking my that was like with training wheels, right? If these
Right.
people decide I'm crazy, it's fine. I don't really know them anyway. And then after you get used to the training wheels and you keep trying and you don't fall off anymore, then you can take it out into real life. And that's where you can practice it. And that's where you actually see the benefits and the major growth when you show it vulnerably in your quote unquote real life. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank God you guys have made. I mean, you guys have said several things that I've written down, and just I'm so appreciative to have been here as you're kind of forming these clarifications that just hit me so deeply too. I used to, I do sometimes still joke and say that Carrie, my wife, I say that Carrie, she lucked out like so big time by meeting me when she did. Because and I'm not just joking like egotistically, which I also do, but no, I mean
No way.
specifically no like I was about a year into recovery. um uh, just real quickly, my recovery process was pretty extracted, or uh, I I did inpatient, I ended up doing inpatient for like 4 months, when I got clean, quote unquote. If you're just listening and can't see, I'm doing air quotes because I hate that term. But when I, started my recovery, and I joke that, you know, she lucked out because she met me at this place where I was just, my norm had been for like the better part of a year at that point had been like being in both one-on-one conversations or group environments where we were exchanging the most vulnerable things. Like I mentioned, not sharing anything about my childhood trauma, like with my ex-wife. Now take that and flash forward, after like several months of really, like several months of really doing the work. I was such a raw but ready, like lump of clay. I wasn't like a lump of clay anymore. I had some mold to me, but like it was definitely still somewhat malleable, which I think is good. So I say that she lucked out, but like, God, did I luck out too? I will, yeah, it'd be terrible if we ended this podcast. I don't have the opportunity to say that, because I lucked out so much to meet somebody, and now I'll get emotional because I do. I think that's like I have to every episode. I got so lucky to meet someone at that point in my life that was, again, a normie, like Christen said, and didn't have experience, came from a really, really like good normie family, you know, that was so interested in me and loved me so much that she wanted to take her own time. Long story short, one time when we were dating, I got the mail, and she got a book in the mail, and it was about like recovery and loving someone in recovery. And we had, been together for like a couple months at that point. And this is not a singular thing that I'm like proved anything to me, but it just kind of epitomizes it for me, of that she was so showing me that she was someone worthy of completely like giving my vulnerable self to. And I lucked out so big by finding myself into a relationship like that. And I say luck, but as we know, like through doing the work, like you do create some luck as well. And things kind of sometimes fall into place like for reasons we don't necessarily see or understand, but we also had a part in them. Um, and uh, I just felt that humbled, I guess, is, I mean, I hate, yeah, but that's the word that comes to mind, is I felt like humbled that like, somebody knew this about me and saw such value and connected over the growth mindset part, like that you guys that I'm pointing to the lower half of my screen where Julie and Kristen are, where you guys started talking about kind of the last question, that bonding over that growth mindset. Um, Someone that was like so capable, emotionally intelligent enough, loyal, trustworthy, all those things. That just it was just such a gift for me. And then the last thing I want to say real quickly is just like regarding that question, because I feel like I have to. In my professional life, I am so talk about like being inundated with, very different kinds of messaging, or schemas that are not part of our current lives in recovery. My days are filled with that, every flavor of dysfunction that arrives out of like interpersonal relationships that involve addiction. And there are many, and you guys are sure very familiar with them, and they share a lot of commonalities. I think that I feel really lucky to be in that, because like in the position to be working with people who are in that place, and looking to grow out of it with other people specifically. I did not get into this imagining that like my niche would be like working with relationships, or couples or families, whatever. And that's just kind of, I knew I wanted to work with people around addiction and compulsive disorders, but I never imagined that it would go that way. And I think that's a big part of why, is because frankly, I do take a lot of clarity, insight, gratitude from being able to work with people in that position right now. It's just very, very fulfilling to me. So yeah, I'm just super, super grateful to have gone through like the experiences I have with some, in some very, very different relationships. um with hallmarks of what we would, call good and bad, and be able to see like these people every day working toward, you know, different values, even if they aren't necessarily completely aligned with mine. I'm seeing people work toward like helping them find a common ground, like around their values, and seeing them like work toward that. And I don't know, that just has such a generally positive effect for me. So I'm really, really appreciative of that.
It's awesome. And to like for those people who are listening right now, like we get it, relationships aren't easy and relationships are hard and you are fighting right now for some improvement and some connection and the vulnerability that you're looking for. And I guess just hearing everything that's been shared about all of the benefits to your emotional well-being, the benefits to your life and like the opportunities that are opened up because you have the support and the vulnerability. I guess that just let that be some hope, I guess, that it's worth getting through all of the discomfort and all of the struggle and all of the hard stuff to get to the point where you have those feelings and those opportunities in your life. We are going to wrap this up with a rapid fire session, one sentence answers. Okay.
You said to Mike.
Yeah,
right. Okay. What is either a question or a conversation that you wish more couples would have? Christen, go first.
the hard ones.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She
Great
nailed it.
answer.
You gave her a sentence. She gave you a sentence. It was great.
Yeah, it's perfect. Mike, what's your one sentence answer?
Conversations specifically about each person's level of security and feelings of safety within the relationship.
That's a great one. I'm going to echo what Christen said. I wrote down any conversation that's a hard conversation to have. If it's hard to say,
I'm on that boat too.
I wrote down a question that would generate a hard conversation. And that question is, what about me is something you love and why? One of the
I love
hardest things to do is talk about our who we are. And it's really easy to talk about what we do. And the who we are is the person we love. And the things that they are, and the things that they do, and the things that encompass their personality. And
Yeah.
when we can acknowledge those things about their personality that attract us to them, then it's always about how someone makes you feel. That lasts way longer than
Yes.
about what you do for them. So that conversation is acknowledgement of things that we love about each other. And so we can share in those positive, awesome things. Anyways, thank you, Mike, and thank you, Christen, for hanging around, sharing your thoughts on love and relationships and your experiences on this topic. I think it is one hell of a conversation and super
I loved
valuable.
it.
And to the rest of our audience, if you made it this far, thank you. First of all, thank you so much for being here. And second of all, hit like, leave some comments, say what you liked about the episode, say what you didn't like about the episode, say what you would like to hear from us, or share some questions that you think would be fantastic starter questions or conversation generating questions or idea exchanging questions with your partner or a friend so other people can use them too. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you guys next week.